So welcome everyone to our personal, private little, poetry, prose reading, where we come together to reflect on the theme of uncertainty. In this post-October atmosphere, we're collectively grappling with profound challenges. The ongoing hostage situation, the surging global anti-Semitism, and the broader tensions that have shaken our sense of security. These realities place us in a space of profound doubt, but also call us to create meaning through art. Tonight's event is brought to you by the Israel Association of Writers in English, a community that gives voice to English-speaking poets and writers living in Israel. Through their work, the IAWE fosters dialogue and understanding, offering a platform for expression that's more vital than ever in times of crisis. As we share these poems, these works, let them serve as both a mirror to our struggles and a light guiding us forward. Thank you for joining us tonight and for choosing to stand with us in this moment of reflection and resilience. I'm going to make a list and tell you the list of who is reading when, so that you will all know when to be ready. So we have a list, and everybody is here, surprisingly. And I'm just going to tell you, we'll begin with Mike Stone, and then Ricky Frisom, then Anne Bardove, then Stephen Hornstein, number 4, and then Wendy Bloomfield, number 5. Number 6 is Libby Sussborn. Where are you? There you are. And then after Libby is Bill Friedman, Reuven Goldfarb, then Pesach Rotem, Dina Yehuda. After Pesach, Helen Krieger, then Ada Aharoni, Yossi Feibush. And when Yossi finishes, I read, and then we all clap hands. Because of the effort, if nothing more. Let's begin with Mike Stone. Mike, may you unmute yourself?
Okay, I unmuted myself. Thank you very much, Karen. My first poem, I was uncertain which poem to choose, which is very appropriate. But my first poem is We Stand in Awe. It was inspired by A Brave and Startling Truth by Maya Angelou. The universe is not the miracle. The flaming suns are but cold-blooded things, nor is this earth an uncertain platform of shifting surfaces underneath our feet, and seas flooding our man-made works or disappearing in distant mirages, nor the mountains growing to breathless heights. These are not miracles. It is we who are the miracles, who witness beauty in all these things, and though we understand not how these are or why, we stand in awe of all these things, and nothing else we know of stands beside us in such awe. My second poem.
We're all on mute, otherwise we would all applause, but we're all going to stay on mute until the
Thank you.
end, okay?
Okay. The second poem is entitled The Lips of Infinity. And he welcomed them, the children, the old ones, the infirm, the youth, the busy young men and women, the forsaken and excommunicated, the doubters and disbelievers, agnostics and atheists, the doctors, the scientists and technicians, and yes, philosophers and poets from all over the world. And he spoke to them in the one language they all understood, the language of silence and action. And this is what he said: I am not descended from David or the son of anyone but my father. My only credentials are the truth of my words, which are your words, if you would only be silent long enough to hear them inside you. I have not come to tell you what to believe, whom to love or not to love, or what to do. I say only these things. For your own sakes, believe in someone or something, because belief gives you strength to go on in an uncertain world. For your own sakes, love someone or something with abandon and utterly, and don't mete love out parsimoniously, as though you might use it all, because love lifts you up to the lips of infinity. For your own sakes, do what you must to follow your belief and protect your love, like a wavering flame in cupped hands, and the rest do with empathy and concern to cause the least evil possible. They left as they came, saying among themselves, not much of a message, and each went his separate way. But when each arrived home and was alone and silent, he heard the words inside him and knew they were true. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Ricky.
Thank you all for coming. And it's just good to have an occasion to vent. First poem, it's the order of things. We're at war, but the sun still rises. The birds still sing at dawn. The bats still glide by after dark. My house is still intact. My front door is still red. The ivy still inches up the wall. And the world still turns with taunting regularity, while my own world sinks ever deeper into a morass where only uncertainty is certain. This thing, the next poem contradicts what I just said. It says, of this I'm certain. It's good until it's bad. But for that puppy gnawing on a juicy bone, it's all good because he doesn't know that one day it will be bad. For the toddler squealing with joy in the playground, it's good because he doesn't know that one day it will be bad. For me, with you here beside me, your body wrapped round me, it could be so good if only I'd surrender to this bliss and squelch the fear that one day soon it will be bad. And the last poem I want to read, short poem. It may be unpopular. It was just prompted by I wrote it some time ago, prompted by the events of the news and the image of Israel the last couple of days. It's called Spare Me. I don't want to see your face. I don't want to know your name. I don't want to know how you died. I don't want to know how old you are or where or what you were doing when the bomb hit. I don't want to see your ruined house, your crying children, your gaping wounds. I don't want to know about you, for knowing you will make it so much harder to go on being me.
Thank you, Ricky. I think that was that opens up our possibilities. Uh, uh, our next our next reader is Anne Badov.
Bardove. Okay, hi everyone. I can tell you that during the past year, everything I wrote, everything I've written was about the war, on and on and on. So, in honor of our present ceasefire, I would like to read you two poems that aren't about the war at all. They're kind of old, but that's okay. The first one is about what I would call a heavy subject. It's called For a Very Ill Friend. What I would like to believe is that God is not cruel, and a special sort of grace has fallen on my friend. What I would like to believe is that though he cannot tell me so, his essential self is where it needs to be, even though the connection between him and me, between him and the world, is cut. Sometimes there, usually not. Perhaps deep within him, joyous life continues. Perhaps the good grace of his sweet soul has finally found its quickening. Perhaps, with no diversion, he is moving in another direction, not toward us, but toward the infinite, where he has always yearned to be. But the drugs he's given through every available orifice, will they help him? Or will they so dull and dumb him down that he cannot ride the winds of wild glory within? Here he is, without them, screeching out ecstasies, waving and windmilling his arms. Must he be damped down somehow, else he shake his finite body apart? It's too much for one frail human man, or so it seems to me. But then I am not party to the rhyme and reason of God's infinite mysteries. So, yeah, I know it's pretty strong. The story has a happy ending. The guy did get better, but it was hard. It was very hard. Okay. The second poem actually appeared in Arc 26 in 2019 in response to the theme Love is in a time of conflict. And I just like it. So I wanted to read it to you. Love in a time of conflict? Love is a time of conflict. I awaken to love and bang, I am at war with myself, with my logical, linear, reasonable self, the self that wants to be calm in the world, the self that does not want to blush or sweat or stink in that nasty, insidious, pheromone way. But once again, here I am. My mask has slipped, and you can see how much you mean to me. What presumptuous stupidity to imagine I could get away with faking a cool, considered gaze, the wave of a languid, cocked finger. Come here, baby, let's check each other out, reasonably, linearly, logically. Nope. Love reduces me to a colt barely born, damp and sticky, staggering around on trembling legs, awkward and muckle-jointed, falling face first at the first opportunity into the nearest pile of wrong. And each time I am born anew. Oh God, will I never learn? It is too much to go through again and again. Life experience, perspective, sagacity, balance. It all goes for shit the minute you look my way. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Anne. Uh, that's uncertainty for sure. Uh, Stephen, Steve Horenstein, I saw you. There you go.
You hear me? Yes.
Yes.
I had a tragedy a few weeks ago, and I heard buzzsaws out my window instead of birds. And I looked out, and they were trimming, I thought, the tree right in front of my mirpeset, which gave me so much joy and comfort every morning. And when I took my nap and I woke up, suddenly the tree was gone. The neighbor had cut the entire birch tree that was covering our mirpesset. So I wrote this poem because I think it's indicative of maybe uncertainty around this time, and it's called the Buzzsaw Massacre. Outside my window, stately tree stood home for fowl and more. Its branches danced with grace through night and day until its fate was sealed. With blood in eyes and breath so foul, with chainsaws hung from neck to neck, the beast stood ready for kill. For hours, I heard the fatal buzz that cut and ripped till tree lay fatally a log. The morning's silence, grimly reaped, is deaf to rhythm song. All grace torn part, the war all lost, the dance of branch no more. That was that. Um, I picked I have a couple of poems here, but I picked this one that's indicative of uncertainty. It was during a visit, fairly recent to Italy, and I visited the church, the Assisi church, and everything, and all the paintings. So I wrote this. It's called In Assisi. I ate rabbit, had the runs, the day hot as hell. Sat through mass where organs cuddled with frescoes, demons, hooked noses, scratched beard, scaring any poor soul destined for hell. St. Francis, a cool dude, a hut, sackcloth and less. The cannoli I bought was stinking ripe. In a window, a Da Vinci t-shirt showed a penis up front, triggering false alarms in minds of the holy. In a window, a Da Vinci, oh, I just said that. Riding home, dizzying, spinning faint from my dry brain. Italy's great with sun that doesn't let up. The truth? I thought rabbit was a pasta shape, not the creature who didn't get away. I am cursed, I said to myself, so I jumped into a pool of frescoes to absolve myself.
Thank you, Steve.
Yes.
Uh, talk later. Our next reader is Wendy. Wendy Bloomfield. Are you here, Wendy?
Yes, I'm here.
Wendy, unmute yourself.
Okay. I wasn't certain I'd be here today, and I wasn't certain.
Wendy, Wendy, oops, Wendy, you're not. We can't hear you. Can you turn up or should we turn up our hearing aids? It's like
Just a moment. Put it on. Is that better? Can you hear me now?
barely, barely. Uh,
She could get closer to the computer, perhaps.
yeah, move in. Good idea.
Is that better?
A bit, a bit.
All right. As I say, I wasn't certain I'd be here today, and I wasn't certain I'd write a poem. And then I saw that Anne had listed me anyway, so I decided I would look for a poem.
No, Wendy, we can barely hear you.
Yeah, we can.
Maybe she could call from her phone.
Wendy, you're also not on the screen. You're only partly on the screen. So maybe if you placed yourself differently, you'd be visible. You'd be audible.
Wendy, it might be you should press the F3 function key if it's if you have something like that, a function key to turn up the volume.
Um, Wendy, would you? Okay, now we'd hear nothing. Why don't you work on that?
And come back to me. All right.
Yeah, we'll come back to you after Libby and we'll check back with you.
Okay.
Saspone, Ona Saspone. Libby, I don't know how you want to be introduced. Tell me.
There, I unmuted myself.
Good.
It's Libby.
Libby.
Yeah. I'm reading one poem, and it's full of questions, which to me denote a certain uncertainty. What eyes are these?
Yeah.
Or dove?
Okay.
Wait.
Oh, wait.
Wendy, could you mute yourself in the meantime? Wendy?
Yes.
Wendy, can you mute yourself? Oh, good. Thank you. Libby.
Okay. What eyes are these for dove? What eyes are these your death has given me to see the one I can no longer see? Familiar street or distant foreign lands, you live before me still and yet are gone. I glimpse you in the swimmer's form at sea and watch you run in runners flashing by. I hear your voice where strangers stand, and in the workman's hands I see your hands. What is this presence loss has made, filled with a beggar's pleading eyes? Or does the earth, as I, desire in grief to hold you near, to hold your laugh, your eyes, your form, reanimate in other men? Does earth desire such brute amends and make of grief a trickster's game, a game to spark one's hope and split one's heart, to make of loss a savage sport? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Libby. Wendy, you are.
Yeah. I'm on the phone now.
Welcome.
Every time I get a new microphone, I think that it's going to work. Anyway, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. So what I was saying before was I wasn't certain if I would be here, and I wasn't certain I would write a poem until Anne put me on the list. I had an extended visit to a family wedding in America, and I didn't think I could get round to it. Anyway, I'm here. Like many of you, I wrote a lot of poems about the war, and I had enough of writing about that. However, the poem I wrote is part of my dream sequence, and I did find that right through this terrible year, my dreams got more and more vivid and more weird, even though they don't necessarily refer to the war itself. So I'm reading you a poem now called Sleeping in Flight. He drove me to the airport. With hug and kiss he left. I can't see my suitcase. Did I leave it in his car? I tried to call. Icons blurred on screen. His contact number not listed. I walked through marble halls, flooded with light from vast windows, searching for my bags. She arrives to check I'm on my way, holding a folder of my poems. Sits down while we read. Your poems are full of confusion, she says. Travel plans without arrivals, search for lost objects. Then I remembered. I had not packed my suitcase, not even got it down from the storage space, not laid out my clothes and presents. I looked in my bag for documents, just the usual jumble of purse, tissues, notes, no tickets, passports, corona tests. I asked her, what date is it today? May the 4th was her reply. I laughed. I'm travelling on June the 1st. Take me home. She leads me out, not through the marble halls flooded with light from vast windows, but through a dark corridor and bare concrete walls. I woke up, heart racing, recalling every confusion, now understanding the suffering of the demented. But unlike the demented, I rose, drank my tea, and returned to the world.
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy. It was worth waiting for. And now, Bill Friedman has probably forgotten that he comes next. Bill, you're up. You need to unmute yourself, Bill.
There you go. Okay.
You go.
Bill Friedman has forgotten almost everything. Not just that he's up now. Okay, so I'm going to read two poems. I would just, when we do this again, I would like to make a special request, if possible. It helps me a great deal to see the poems. So if that's possible, for me, it's a great help. Partly because I don't hear very well, because people, the sound is not all that wonderful. And so if we can do that, that'd be just great. Okay.
Oh,
It was an experiment. It was an experiment to see if it would be okay, just audio. So, okay, next time.
There is a problem about putting this, making this public, that we can't make it public and then publish the poem because it's considered to be published already.
Right.
If you read a poem you haven't published already, it is considered to have been published. So we did, for those of us who wanted to publish afterwards, we said we won't put them on the screen. But it is a problem. I acknowledge it, and we'll have to figure out how to do this somehow.
I mean,
maybe afterwards send the poems.
Yeah, what journal is going to be watching this to know that it has been previously?
No, because we'll put it on YouTube.
Yeah, I
YouTube
see.
channel if
I see.
if we don't have too many of these interruptions that I have just made. If I can cut properly, but it should be. We want to get people to hear about where we are with this uncertainty. Bill.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to read two poems. And the second one has to be on the screen. So I guess you'll have this difficulty not seeing me. This will be a kind of punishment, but you'll get over it. I mean, I'm told that within weeks, people generally get over this. So yeah, okay. Because my printer just went absolutely nuts. So I couldn't print out the second poem. Only this one is called The Lesson. And as it says at the beginning of certain movies on television, based on actual events. When my son was born, squeezed like a sausage from his mother's body, I was sure, look, there's no mistaking it. He had no face. In the next few seconds, the time it takes a drowning man to review and reassess his life, I planned our future, how I'd manage with a child who had no face. I'd find first a hidden but convenient orifice to feed him through, strained food and liquids only, at least for the first few months, that he might learn like his future classmates language. I speak loudly and distinctly to his knees and ankles, back and throat, until I saw the light, the spark, perhaps at the ends of his tiny fingers, that signals recognition, yes. To teach him numbers, arithmetic, I'd flash flashcards at the unfeatured cloak of skin above his jaw, hoping eyes were buried, but not unsighted just below. Then try his umbilicus, the bright brown birthmark on his thigh, an upper arm until I saw, perhaps again at the tips of his translucent fingers, the rewarding glow. In the midst of planning how I'd teach him proper table manners, social skills, and morals, don't hit, I knew he wouldn't bite. The midwife turned him over on his back. He had a face, earth brown eyes, a squat pink nose, rose lips, puckered tight as though he whistled. Nothing exceptional, but everything as far as I could tell he'd need. I was pleased, of course, relieved. Better a face than a vacant visage. It's an advantage in the world. Gives a child a long leg up, and I'd have more time alone for reading. And yet I did not regret my error. I had learned in those few seconds more about myself than in all the preceding 30 years of an uneventful, unexamined life. My surprising, dare I say, admirable composure in conditions of quite extraordinary stress. My capacity at such a time for organized preparation, not to mention a useful scientific bent toward system, trial and error, where nothing less would have served so well. Not least, the reassuring knowledge my love might, after all, survive the colic crying hours each night that has me grinding teeth and clenching fists since we took him, face and all, back home. The next one I have to put on the screen. I hope it's still here. Oh, no. Yeah. Okay, this is called How It Happened. How It Happened. And the first 6 lines are just an inscription from a poem by Mark Strand called Afterwards. This is from Strand. A train releasing a ribbon of steam pulled out of a small wood station. Minutes later, a man stepped onto the platform, waited, then lifted his suitcase over his head and hurled it onto the tracks. That's that, he said, and turned and walked away. Mark Strand, Afterwards. This is interesting, intriguing. Who was he? What was he up to? And of course, the great hunched Y, arching its wings, hooking its yellow talons in the flesh. But I can top this. Where I live, it was not a suitcase, but a child, another kind of luggage, another lid he had to sit on hard to shut, another weight he had to drag from one day's station to the next. For reasons of security or just blind fear, they'd removed the lockers, all wives and women gone. When he could, he'd leave it with a stranger, briefly, just to feel that nakedness, that freedom. We played this game, he said. I'd lift him in the air. He loves it, laughs, and ease him down. Give him candy, everything he asks for, needs. Deny him nothing, nearly. This time, he wriggled free. as though he'd seen something on the tracks he had to have. His choice. I couldn't hold him. That's that, he said, and turned and walked away like an ancient god.
Wow.
That's that.
That's that. Thank you.
That's that, he said.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it.
Just to add to this, let me just add that what you put on your screen isn't visible to us unless you share the screen. So if we finish in time, would you object to all of us going through it again and going through the reading again without all the without the chats, or if you want to, with all everyone, put your poem in the chat? We didn't open it up. We didn't. No, you don't want to do that. Okay.
No.
All right. So there are all kinds of things on the screen that shouldn't be there, and things that are not on the screen that should be. So we will we'll have problems with using this as a final product. There's no way to edit it when one is on top of the other. So our next reader is Helen Krieger.
Hello? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay, I didn't write a poem. Okay, this is an anecdote on uncertainty. It was late September 2023, and my bird of paradise plant, which hadn't bloomed for the 3 years I'd had it, began to tease me. It sent out flower shoots, which had me grinning to myself like an expectant mother. Then it stopped. Forced labour, I told myself. The shoots then grew an inch or two when I wasn't looking and stopped again. I found myself giving daily progress reports to anyone within earshot. That usually means my husband and children, who have learned not to roll their eyes if they want to avoid a lecture. I informed them that they were in for such a treat whenever the blooms decided to bloom. Those flower shoots continued to grow in this stop-start fashion for weeks, and I told it that was okay. I could wait. We gardeners are a patient bunch. Then the war started. My children were called up. I told the plant it could go screw itself. My eldest came home after spending weeks on a beach in Naharia, pointing his gun at anything that moved out at sea. He asked about the plant, so we paid it a visit together. Seems the thing didn't mind the neglect at all and had some really good-sized buds ready to open. It was a happy moment, the two of us, standing in front of a potted plant, him pretending to be super interested in the thing, just to please me, and me pretending that I wasn't the most scared I'd been in my life. A few days later, he headed into Gaza. Before he left, I told him that he had to be home in time to see the blooms. And so I waited, floundering in the stress of uncertainty. Will he phone? Will there be a knock at the door? Will we all wake up from this bad dream? But I also found myself in a strange battle with nature. I began to hate that plant and told it so. On the days it had the gall to continue living when there was death everywhere, I asked, "How dare you?" Each time a flower opened, I remonstrated, "He's not home yet. I can't even send him a picture. Stop flowering, you bastard." The worm of superstition grew as each flower opened. I even considered cutting down the whole plant, madly reasoning that if there's no plant, there are no flowers. And if there are no flowers, then there can't be a time that the flowers will bloom and die without him having got home to see them. I didn't take the secateurs to it. It did bloom while my son was in Gaza. But one late flower did wait until he got home.
Yes,
Thank you.
I love it.
You.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much, Helen. And now, Ada, Roni, here we are.
I'm still so moved at what I heard just now. Thank you for this beautiful recitation. Thanks. My poem is about Gaza and the tunnels in Gaza. I've been writing a lot about those tunnels, and this is my latest one, which I wrote this week. Choken uncertainty in Gaza dungeon tunnel. I'm so tired of waiting. Can you believe we're still alive in this horrible, stinking tunnel after 14 months on half a pita a day? Enough. I want to die. It's this burning uncertainty that is killing us. Where is the army that should save us? Where is Israel? I too cannot wait or hope anymore. This burning uncertainty is like an enormous bitter gum, bubble gum in my mouth, choking me every single minute. I cannot breathe. I cannot swallow. I too want to die. How can we kill ourselves? We can't even kill ourselves. Yes, we can. When the horrible Hamas terrorist dares to touch me again with his blood-stained fingers, with the little strength I have left, I will strangle him. He will then surely kill me. And this choking uncertainty will be over. You're right. I'll do the same. We will die together. But before we die, let's give a last chance to this new agreement suggested by Egypt today to save all 101 kidnapped hostages at once. All 101 hostages at once? Oh, Ashrei HaMa'amin. Happy is he who believes. But, all right, out of respect for Egypt, I'll wait. But only for one more week. And then we will both join hands and strangle tormenting, choking uncertainty together forever. This was my poem number one. My poem number two is about those youngsters leaving Israel every day. It breaks my heart. So it reminded me of a little poem I wrote in the past, in another war, when my mother in Paris wrote to me, "Come to Paris. It's dangerous to be in Israel now. After the war, you can go back." And I wrote this little poem to explain to her, I can't leave my child, Israel, when it's ill. And this is the poem. Israel, to leave you now would be an amputation I would survive. I can't survive without an arm. But there would be less of me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ada. Thank you so much. I now realize I've messed up the order, right? And I have only my deepest apologies because I thought
But I'm not doing it again.
we have to do it all over, the whole thing. But perhaps we can, for the moment, continue with Reuven. I have you left in anger? Are you still here?
Oh, hard feelings, Karen.
What?
Albus Seder. Maybe not numerically, but otherwise. Okay. So I'm going to read a poem by Dietrich Bonhoeffer. I'm going to explain the background. When I was a freshman at Lafayette College, which was a Presbyterian-related institution, which had a department of religion in which we were obligated to take classes, I was invited by some of the faculty to engage in a study of the writings of Dietrich Bonhoeffer, of whom you may not have heard, but who's pretty well known. He's a German Lutheran pastor and theologian. He was involved with the anti-Nazi group, was arrested and eventually executed on April 9th, 1945. I was born 3 weeks later. So were you, Karen. And I always felt a connection with him. He wrote this poem, probably during his imprisonment. Who am I? They often tell me I would step from my cell's confinement, calmly, cheerfully, firmly, like a country squire from his country house. Who am I? They often tell me I would talk to my warders freely and friendly and clearly, as though it were mine to command. Who am I? They also tell me I would bear the days of misfortune equably, smilingly, proudly, as one accustomed to win. Am I then really all that which other men tell of? Or am I only what I know of myself? Restless and longing and sick, like a bird in a cage, struggling for breath, as though hands were compressing my throat, yearning for colors, for flowers, for the voices of birds, thirsting for words of kindness, of neighborliness, trembling with anger, despotisms, and petty humiliations, tossing in expectation of great events, powerlessly trembling for friends at an infinite distance, weary and empty at praying, at thinking, at making, faint and ready to say farewell to it all. Who am I? This or the other? Am I one person today and tomorrow another? Am I both at once? A hypocrite before others and before myself, a contemptibly woebegone weakling? Or is it something within me still like a beaten army, fleeing in disorder from victory already achieved? Who am I? They mock me, these lonely questions of mine. Whoever I am, thou knowest, O God. I am thine.
And you expect us to breathe. Thank you, Reuven.
You're welcome.
And again, apologies to all that I have skipped over by mistake. Pesach is next.
Okay. I am here. I have a couple short poems. The first is called A Prickly Pear. It's spelled P-A-I-R, pear. A prickly pear. The world is cruel and harsh and cold, and we yearn for warmth, my love and I. A pair of porcupines. We approach and embrace, and she jabs me, and I prick her, and we flee, bleeding, back into the safety of the pain-free cold. And the second poem is called The Birth of a Poet. I was introduced to a friend of a friend. Hey, nice to meet you, Pesach. Tell me, what do you do? I am a marketing content writer, and in my spare time, I write poetry. Question and answer 1,000 times. On the 1,001st, the answer reversed. I am a poet, and on weekdays from 9 to 5, I write marketing content. And thus, at the age of 64, a poet was born. Thank you.
If I may, I'd like to just insert something about this prickly pear. My mother was the principal of a Hebrew and English, it was called the Yeshiva or Hebrew Academy in Newark, New Jersey. And this was during the war, World War II. And Sabras were coming over from Israel, and they would settle in the area, and they would send their children to the school. And my mother, after meeting a number of them, said, thing about Sabras is they're prickly on the outside, but they're prickly on the inside.
That's great.
Thank you so much. Dina,
Hi.
you're here.
Hi, nice to see you. I just want to say to Helen, I don't agree that you hadn't written a poem, but it might not have been a poem, but it was a wonderful piece of writing, which could be a prose poem or a short story. And it was beautiful, and it really touched my heart.
Thank you, Dina. I have terrible stage fright, so I'm glad it's over.
I'm so glad that you overcame it. I wrote 2 short poems. I put them in the chat. That might be a way of overcoming this problem. Okay, the first one is called Faith. They're 2 short poems. Faith. As a child, I watched the slanted sunlight drift down from the big world outside the window. I did not question the light or ask where it was from, did not reach out to grasp it. It was a gift, bits of wonder shimmering in the air. For such a brief moment, it lit on the fingers of my childhood and dissolved. Now I look for it everywhere. The second poem is called Driving on Ice. It's getting dark, starting to drizzle, but she wants to be on the road. Silence beckons, and driving through the night feels like a blessing. But the rain becomes a wall, and the road a floor of ice. The cars ahead, like tipsy skaters, spin, and all her instincts are to steer away from the turn. But she remembers what she was taught. Hold fast, steady hands, steer into the swerve. That's how to live when driving on ice.
Thank you, Dina. And apologies for again. The poems are on chat. If we had had the time to tell everyone, we would have told everyone to put their poems on chat. It might work, but I think well, if you're all ready for next time, we'll do this. We can do this again. We can do the whole thing. This is just a dress rehearsal. If you're ready for it. Our next to last poet is Yossi Feibish, who is new to us, and we welcome you here, and you're in a safe place.
Yes. Yes, I'm in a safe place called Greenberg in Belgium. Okay, hello everybody.
Hello.
It's my first year, so it's kind of not stage fright, but unaccustomed to this forum. I hope I live up to the expectations. So basically, my poem that I'm going to read here is a result of me waking up kind of every middle of the night and writing something dark, of course, partly related to the war, unavoidable, but also related to life, where I am, what's coming next. And this is a poem that actually talks about the second aspect. The poem is called Suddenly. Suddenly, one finds out that one is not immortal anymore. And unfortunately, one finds this while still being alive. That many people one admired, friends, poets, acquaintances, family, strangers, move there where they do not care anymore that one admire them or not, one and anyone else. That the health benefits of bananas was probably a successful marketing stratagem for bananas, and that food supplements to their kinds, neither are they as tasty as bananas, nor do they supplement anything, at best deplement, if there is such a word, one's pocket. Suddenly, pleasures graph down, and these pleasures graph up exponentially, both. That sleep is composed of multiple discrete units, which once adhere to one continuum, and presently are at odds with each other for reasons known and unknown. That words that end with es and ea and various combinations of consonants followed by a y are being intimately shared by one and medical almanacs. The doctors are technicians. Some know more body, some know less body, some know much less body. Some should have chosen shoemaking as careers, and none know sufficiently and or cares more for one than for their pockets. Suddenly, one looks much less in the mirror. One enjoys much less that which one enjoyed much more. One remembers childhood scenes. Where was I yesterday? That all which was said to be overrated actually is. That lost loves hurt more now than then. That knocking on wood gives one blisters. Same like crossing fingers. Same like cursing or blessing or praying. Suddenly, one doesn't give a damn about dreams and looks forward to the absence of said subject. Suddenly, one misses mama's food and voice, also papa's, also pet's bark. That I and one and you can be used interchangeably, but all point a finger same direction. That a couple years from now, I, one, you will not be a memory. No one will clean I, one, you's parents' gravestones and pets' gravestones. No one will read I, one, you's poetry. Income tax services will mourn I, one, you. Inheritance tax services will count I, one, you. Medical insurances will applaud I, one, you. Many people who admired I, one, you, friends, poets, acquaintances, family, strangers, will sigh, then finish their pizza or hamburger and fries. And all I will care about, no, I will not care about pollution, mosquitoes, music. Strange, then strange.
Jesse, thank you for your debut.
Thank you.
Thank you all. I'm now going to introduce me. And I'm going to read three short. Housekeeping under fire. No need to wash the floor when there's a war. It just takes your mind off more crucial demands, like what you should buy but must now forget. Vegetables rotting under the berries, under fire, the berries, olives waiting to be shaken from the tree. No need to wash the floor when there's a war. You'll spill something that will drive you wild. For me, it was a can of gas, meant for the generator that might have kept the meat a few days more. Even a few lost drops of coffee can set me off now. No need to wash the floor when there's a war. The muck will return, if not from the bombs, then the treads of boots dropping squares of filth from the field. Dirt mixed with blood. Easy to clean, impossible to erase. Second one is a necklace. A necklace lost in a looted, burnt home in a kibbutz was found last week in a burnt home in Gaza. Hope. We speak hope like a second language, stumbling at first, then stronger, with a growing sense of belonging, control, sure of the need for our voice. We speak their names like those of dear relations. We set the table with places for them. Each plate is a promise.